No Place Like Oz, Chapter 6. Well, Aunt Em said shakily, as if it just dawned on her that something funny was going on. That was unusual. Was that woman some kind of actress? Of course not, I said. I try not to lose my patience with them, but sometimes it's an effort. She's a sorceress. I've told you all about Glinda, remember? She and Henry both stared back at me with a look of blank confusion. A sorceress? Aunt Em seemed hesitant. I suppose it did seem magical. It seemed magical because we're in Oz. You may have noticed the sneezing flowers and the fruit that changes colors. My aunt and uncle exchanged a look. Now see here, young lady, Henry said. I don't care if this is Oz or Shangri-La or Timbuktu. You can't just go spiriting people away like that, with not so much as a how do you do. It's the busiest time of year, and I have a lot of work to do tomorrow. I need to get a good night's sleep if I'm going to be up before dawn to milk the cows. Aunt Em was nodding along with him as he spoke. I'm not quite sure what's going on here, she said slowly, but it's all very strange, and well, I would feel a lot better if I could sleep in my own bed tonight. Wouldn't you, dear? It's been a long day for you. I'm the first one to admit that Oz is a lot to wrap your head around all at once, especially for two people who had always been perfectly content to spend their lives on the farm. At the same time, I had told them about this place so many times. You would think that it would have given him at least a bit of a head start. I tried again, this time speaking slowly and simply, trying to keep the creeping frustration out of my voice. We have been transported to Oz, I explained. My friend Glinda, the sorceress, must have brought me here. She's in trouble, and I need to help her. Toto barked one sharp yip of approval. Neither of them looked very convinced, but before they could protest any more, Toto and I were already on the move, charging across the clearing, away from the house and the stream, in the direction of the Munchkin village I knew to be close by. I guess Aunt Em and Uncle Henry didn't want to be left alone in this strange place. That might as well be Timbuktu, because they began to follow. I had imagined my triumphant return to Oz 1,000 times, probably more. This has not been exactly how I pictured it. I thought that I cleared up every bit of trouble last time I was here. This time, I'd assumed my family and I would get to enjoy all the luxuries a magical kingdom had to offer without me having to do the trouble of battling evil and saving the land. I should have known better than that. Of course, the very reason I'd been brought back here would be because they needed my help. I'd saved Oz before. If Glinda was in trouble, that meant Oz needed rescuing. Again. I have to say, it was nice to feel special, but I would have preferred to be able to just relax and see the sights with my family, like a vacation. But it occurred to me that maybe a quest is the price of admission into a magical kingdom, and if that was the case, I wasn't going to complain. I just hoped I could get it over quickly, and the only way I could do that was to keep moving. It didn't take long for us to spot the Munchkin town in the distance, and as we got closer, I remembered that it was hardly a village at all. It was just a circle of squat, domed houses, ringed around a cobblestone plaza with a statue in the center of it. A statue? I don't remember that part. And when I stepped into the cobblestone plaza, I suddenly understood why. Towering over the square, looking every bit the hero, was a girl in a familiar checked gingham dress, her hair pulled into 2 long braids. She had her hands on her hips and was staring triumphantly into the distance. The statue had been cast in marble. It was entirely colorless except for the important feature. The shoes on its feet were silver, and they were sparkling in an afternoon sun. This was Oz, where the unexpected wasn't unexpected at all. A hippopotamus in a tutu, a fat man walking on his hands, a pack of wild polar bears dancing the cha-cha. You could have almost put anything in the center of that square, and I wouldn't have been surprised. The statue, though, surprised me. It was me. They'd built a statue of me. I would have loved to see the look on Mitzi Blair's face if only she were here. I would have loved to see the look on my own face, for that matter. Is that? Aunt Em said. It can't be, Henry said. Can it? I stepped over to the base and gazed up at myself, awestruck. Here stands Dorothy Gale, I read aloud from a placard at the base, my voice wavering a little as I spoke, who arrived on the wind, slayed the wicked, and freed the Munchkins. I turned around to face my aunt and uncle. They just stared at me dumbfounded. A wave of triumph washed over me. Can't you see now? Everything I told you was true. It's written right here. Written in stone. Uncle Henry rubbed his head. Maybe I'm the one who's not in the right mind, he muttered to himself. I did take quite a tumble. Aunt Em, though, was still staring at the statue, her face rippling with emotions. It was all sinking in for her. She turned to me. I suppose I just didn't want to believe it, Am said, her voice still unsteady, but decisive now. I still don't want to believe it. It's all too strange, you understand. Your uncle and I, we're not like you. We've always been ordinary people. Something like magic? She paused, marveling at the very word. Magic. Well, that doesn't come easily to people like us. But this is all too real. It doesn't matter whether I want to believe it. I can feel it. Uncle Henry was still rubbing his head, but he was listening, and Uncle Henry never, ever doubts my aunt when she sets her mind to something. He swiveled his head toward her, then to the statue, and finally back over to me. In all the generations of Gales, there's never been a liar, he mused, trying the idea out. Or a crazy person, I pointed out. Never had one of those either, he agreed. Now Aunt Em was getting excited. Oh, Dorothy, she said, I'm so sorry we didn't believe you. I've always known you were something special, ever since the day you came to live with us. And now, she gestured at the statue, to think you did something so brave and important that they put up a monument to you. I just wish your poor father and mother were here to see it. They'd be so proud of you. With that, she wrapped her thin, strong arms around me and hugged me tight. I hugged her back, too, overwhelmed to say anything at all. I'm so proud of you, she said. Yes, we're very proud, Uncle Henry said gruffly. Of course, he added, that doesn't mean we don't want to get out of here and get home. For a tiny woman, Am has a strong grip, and I was trying to peel myself out of her embrace when I began to hear excited chatter and whispering coming from all around us. Hello? I called. Munchkins? They began to reveal themselves, a few at a time, their little faces slowly popping out of bushes, and shadows and doorways, and everything else you could imagine, like frogs after a rainstorm. Soon we were surrounded by at least 24 of the little people, none of whom were more than 3 feet high, all of whom were wearing with little blue breeches and gold-embroidered Belleroe jackets and funny pointed hats with bells around the brim. Declare yourself, a voice shouted from the crowd. It's me, I replied, not sure who I was supposed to be addressing. I've returned. I'm so happy to be back. I've missed you all so much. A Munchkin man stepped forward, looking at me quizzically. He glanced at my outstretched hand that made no move to return my shake. Excuse me, young lady, he said. I am Cause, the alderman of this Munchkin village. And who are you? I cocked my head in surprise and looked around. Well, it's me, of course. Dorothy Gale? I gestured up at the statue. See? Cause looked up, back and forth between the figure and me, comparing the resemblance. For a second there was silence. Next, a murmur spread through the crowd. Then, as one, they began to roar, Dorothy! Cause took off his hat, twisting the brim on his hand like he was embarrassed to have forgotten me. There still seemed to be some uncertainty in his eyes, though, as he examined me intently. Dorothy? The Witch Slayer? Is it really you? Witch Slayer? I liked that. It's me, I said happily. It's been a very long time, Cause said slowly. We never thought we'd see you again. I've been trying to get back, I said, kneeling so that we were face to face. It's not so easy, you know. A good strong wind only comes around once every so often. I rose back up to my feet and looked around at the growing throng surrounding us, all of them gazing up at me in awed admiration. I wanted to stay and talk, to hear about everything that had happened to us since I'd gotten, but there wasn't time for that. There were more pressing things to worry about now, like finding Glinda. I wasn't sure how much I should say about what I had seen back at the old farmhouse. It was possible that no one knew yet that anything was wrong with Glinda. If that was the case, it was probably a wiser idea not to let the cat out of the bag in front of an entire village of Munchkins, who, truthfully, are known for being an anxious and high-tempered strong people. Instead, I decided it was better just try to get as much information as I could before I decided what to do next. How has everything been lately? I asked. What do you mean? Cause asked, befuddled by the question. The Munchkins began to chatter amongst themselves. I mean, how has Oz been, since I've been gone? There hasn't been any more witches causing trouble or anything like that, has there? Oh, no, Miss Dorothy, Cause replied, bobbing his red, cheerful face up and down. We Munchkins have never been happier since you slayed the witches all those many moons ago. The crops grow, the sun shines, and there's good magic everywhere. Praise Ozma. So whatever happened to Glinda, the Munchkins didn't seem to know about it. But what was an Ozma? Miss Dorothy, would you and your family like to stay for a feast? A murmur of approval rippled through the crowd at Cause's invitation. We would like to celebrate your visit. It sounded tempting. A big Munchkin feast, all in celebration of me, would certainly be a good way to make up for the disaster that had been my sweet 16. And Munchkins are known to be magicians in the kitchen, literally. But I'm sorry, I said, kneeling down again. But it's very important that I see the king right away. Now, Dorothy, Uncle Henry interjected. The king? Cause asked. What king? Why, the King of Oz, of course, I said in surprise. When I first came to Oz, before the humbug wizard had packed up his balloon and headed back to America, he had chosen to appoint my friend the Scarecrow as the new king, and the people of Oz had immediately embraced him as their ruler. My friend the Tin Woodman had become the governor of Winkie Country, and the Lion the king of the beasts. When I'd gone back to Kansas, I'd done it knowing that I was leaving Oz in good hands. But now it seemed that the Munchkins didn't know who I was talking about. We don't have a king, Kaz said. The rest of them all nodded in agreement. But I was there when they put the crown on his head, I said. They all began to mutter confusedly amongst themselves. Oz has only one true monarch, Kaz said. Princess Ozma, the rightful and just ruler of our land. Princess what? I had never heard of any princess before. They all began talking over each other, trying to explain how great this Ozma person was. Princess Ozma is beautiful and kind. Princess Ozma is our one true ruler. Long live Ozma. But what about the Scarecrow? I asked. Kaz's face brightened. Oh, he said, the Scarecrow. I'd forgotten all about him. Well, I suppose he was king, but that was for a very short time indeed, and it was ages ago. It was only 2 years ago. 2 years? Kaz frowned. No. It seemed to me that it was much longer than that. Perhaps your calendar on the outside world is different than ours. He fixed me with a serious look. Dorothy, much time has passed since the day of the witches. Uncle Henry cleared his throat. Dorothy, he said, this is all very interesting, but we need to be getting home. Mr. Munchkin, can you advise us the best way to get to Kansas? Kaz looked at my uncle and blinked. Where's that? I didn't have time to worry about Uncle Henry's grumbling. Between Glinda's plea for help and the news that the Scarecrow was no longer the king, it was becoming more and more clear that Oz had changed since I'd been gone, and I had an uneasy feeling that it wasn't for the better. If I was going to put it right, I had to find my old friend. Never mind Kansas, Kaz. It's very important that we see the Scarecrow right away. Does he still live in the Emerald City? Oh, no, Kaz said. He lives quite near here. As a matter of fact, in a mansion made of corn cobs just off the road of yellow brick. It's less than a day's walk. He pointed into the distance. You'll find the road that way. Just be weary. The trees are restless today. The trees? I heard Aunt Em whisper to Uncle Henry. Thank you, Munchkins, I announced. Next time I see you, I hope I'll be able to feast with you. Then, confident in my path, but nervous about what other surprises Oz had in store for me, I gave my most dignified goodbye wave. As the people of Munchkin Country began to cheer my name, I knew that no matter what Oz had in store for me at this time, one thing was clear. I was home.